Well, welcome to church, everyone. I'm always happy to be with you guys. It's good to be among friends. Makes the sermons go a lot easier if I know you guys aren't going to be too hard on me. But I'll try my best so it's helpful to you at some level. So here we have this reading today. It's similar to the one from last week because we're reading right through the Gospel of Mark for a while, the way our schedule of readings go. And in this passage, Jesus is back in the house. He was out in the synagogue. Now he went to the house of some of his disciples, because it was Simon and Andrew, which always gets so confusing because Simon was really Peter. So Peter and Andrew, in any case, they go over to their house. And it turns out that his mother-in-law is sick. And Jesus is able to lift her out of bed, and her fever goes away, and she begins to serve them. And from that point on, when it got to be about sundown, the sun was going down and the day was over, and kind of the word got out that Jesus was there, and lots of people came with different diseases and what they called the demons. And he casts out many demons and he heals many people of various things. Those demons, the way that the Bible uses that word, it seems like they feel like they're real physical or at least very actual, real entities that take over a person and influence their behavior, but they're kind of from the inside out. So a person, we say that the demon was inside and he cast them out. So it's very easy for me to consider. I want to consider with you, what are the things that are on the inside of us that end up really with a lot of control and with a lot of, you might say, bondage, the things that are on the inside that control us, that are really harmful to us. Now, wouldn't it be great if those things on the inside could be gotten rid of or cast out so that we could be free, not be so dominated? That's what our first prayer says, the opening prayer for the day. It says, give us the freedom, or it says the liberty, of that abundant life that we saw in Jesus, because he was very free. We say he had great liberty. He was not controlled by anything on the inside except for the Spirit of God. Listen to some of those things when you think about it for a moment. The things that are on the inside that act like demons, that control us and bind us and take us down bad paths. I can start on a very lighthearted note. I'm one of those people that once the football season is over and my team is lost, as always, the Redskins always lose. Second only to the Cleveland Browns, probably. But after that's over, now I'm sort of a sports person. Now sports, I follow the next sport in the grade cycle of the sports year. And now the basketball season's gone and the Spurs are playing, and I know they're in 7th place, one game behind the Clippers. And I follow them on my phone. I don't really watch much, but I watch on the phone and I watch the score as it goes up and down. And I have my high hopes that they'll win. And then if they lose, my mind is so wound up in the game, I'm actually kind of peeved for about 5 minutes. If it was a game I know they should have won, I'm like really peeved. I'll tell you a little secret. The day after a Spurs game when they've won, I turn on the sports radio because I want to hear more. But when they've lost a game, like to some schmucky team, no radio. I don't want to hear about it. I know what happened. How depressing. So isn't it funny how the Spurs, a silly game where you throw a ball in a hoop, that's all it is. They're throwing, some big guys are throwing ball in the hoop, actually affects my day. It's not even, I'm not even playing the game. They're playing the game, which I don't even have any part in. And my life gets messed up for a little bit at some level. Just think about how powerful your mind is, and wherever you let your mind go, how it kind of corrupts your life sometimes. And that's a little level. We could get more serious, but let's just stay light for a little bit. Sometimes those are like things, I don't want the Spurs as a thing to possess me. I want to be able to watch the Spurs game and let it go. I don't want to be possessed by that. In the same way, sometimes not only our thought life, but our emotional life can come out of nowhere sometimes. It seems like it flares up and it could take us out of control too. A lot of times for me, it's just like anger things, or things that upset me easily. By the way, my mom used to have a sign in my dad's office, home office, something like this. It said, small things control small people. So funny how little things can upset you emotionally and take you down the bad path for as long as you want to go down that path. There aren't too many things in life worth getting that upset about. But sometimes the emotional things control me. It could be something in traffic. I mean, half the time my spiritual practice is to drive from my house to church without saying something about the person in front of me. Either in my head or verbally, and you just don't keep your hand off the horn. Because who wants traffic to control them? It's traffic. What, you're going to go somewhere where there's no go live by yourself on another planet then. So it's just funny what things control us, right? So it could be that, or other things more personal to us can really grab a hold of us and bind us up and really enslave us. We have these great physical bodies and they're wonderful, but they can be so demanding, and they, in their own way, can be controlling and dominating and enslaving. Like, I like to eat food, and I love good food, and of course we have to have food. But I hope food doesn't control me. Tell me what to eat and when to eat, how much to eat. I want to control food. I don't want food to control me. Or I want to be able to have a drink. In the physical world, we're not too afraid of alcohol, but I don't want alcohol to control me. I want to have a drink. And the Alcoholics Anonymous says, look, the second step towards addiction was the drink took you. You took a drink, and then the drink took you. So we don't want to be possessed by anything. Paul says in one of his letters we read last week, is that all things are lawful for me, but not all things are beneficial for me. Everyone's got to know what controls them, what possesses them, because Jesus wants us to be totally free, have a free life, a life full of liberty, he says. The abundant life is one with freedom, not full of bondage and slavery and being controlled and driven by other things. So I would like to have freedom of my own body. This sounds like a stewardship sermon, but sometimes you can get into this too. How about actual physical things that actually begin to dominate us, influence powers over us, control over us, like the things around us? We say, I want to have possessions. I don't want possessions to possess me. When I first bought my car a long time ago now, 2009, less than a week, I had a new Prius. Woo. And it was a fancy car back then, fancy as far as new technology. And I told you this story before, but I'll just remind you. I parked the car in a driveway, and I went up to the house to knock on the door. I hadn't figured out the Prius thing yet. It's got a funny little gear shift thing. And it's kind of different. And I thought it was in park, but it was in neutral. So I got out of the car, and I went to the door, and about halfway to the door, I saw my car rolling down the driveway into the car in front of it. You have heard that story a million times, but you always go, "Oh," so I tell you that. So my brand new car, man, I love that car. And now it had a big dent in it. You just don't want the things to possess you. That car possessed me for a little bit. I put it in reverse and backed out, and it took me years and years to actually spend the money to buy a new bumper, because I was too cheap to buy a new bumper. So I went around with a big dimple in it for a long time. Everybody would ask me, oh, did you just get in a wreck? I said, no, I got it about 5 years ago. In any case, nobody wants their possessions to possess them. Sometimes we love our things so much and then they have control over us. When you lose them or they go away, you see it all the time. How goodness gracious. When someone dies in your family, I've heard this a million times, you all. The person in the family can be sick. Someone's sick in the family and they're older. And one of the siblings will come up and say to another sibling, I want the plate. Or, I want that chair. It's like, dude! The person's not even dead yet and you're already putting claims on the stuff in the house. That happens all the time. Jesus had that happen to him. Somebody came up to Jesus one time and said, tell my brother to give me my share of the inheritance. And Jesus said, dude, I'm not in charge of your inheritance. Go figure it out yourself. Don't let your possessions own you, or else it gets to be a big mess. So as you can see, there's lots of things that are inside of us that have a lot of power. They could become like demons for us that just eat us up inside. Some of the hardest things that are inside of us that do have some power is like sometimes what we believe or the patterns that we already inherited from, well, our families. Our families give us some internal organization. It's really hard to go against your family sometimes and break out of what your family always did. You can also feel that same pressure. You call it peer pressure, you call it friends. It's hard to not do what your friends are doing because your friends have power over you and you don't want to look bad in front of your friends. I had that happen the other night. Oh, God. This has never happened, and I've done this job, or this kind of job, for over 20 years. First time this happened. Okay, before we go to the meeting called the council or convention, all the churches in the whole diocese get together. From all over, and they come together for one meeting. Before that big meeting, there's a pre-meeting. And all the priests, all your buddies, they get together with all your special friends who are delegates, and they go to the pre-meeting so that you can go to the real meeting and not spend so much time on some stuff. So, I open up my phone and I look, oh, it's 7 o'clock. I'm supposed to be at the pre-meeting. I said, oh no, this is the bishops there, and all the delegates from my church are there, and they're all going, where is David? Where's David? It's like, oh my God, I missed the meeting. And I thought, well, it's a crowded room. I'll probably could sneak under the radar. Nobody will know I was gone, except my delegates, and they gave me a lot of break. They called up and said, we thought you were sick. I said, no, I just forgot. Of course, I thought I'd go under the radar, because my peers would never know. Except the bishop made an announcement saying, Bob Bridges has died from St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. Why don't you all go to the funeral? Oh, and where is St. Andrew's? And where's Father David? Oh, so the entire room knows. All the clergy of all of San Antonio and all the delegates. Oh, Father David just blew off a meeting. Oh. So I was trying to stay detached, say, it's just a meeting. It's happened a lot of times. You don't want your peers to control how you act or behave. But it's really not that easy sometimes. And if you're a younger person and you're going to school and you're working with peer pressure, your peers are very powerful. But on the inside, you don't have to be controlled. But it's hard to go against peer pressure, right? Didn't your mom always say to you when you said, well, can I go to this party? And you would say, all my friends are going. And your mom might say back, well, if all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you go? And you say, maybe. In any case, these are just examples of the things that are on the inside of everybody that are like forces, and they can control us. You might call them demons if they get out of control. If you got really bad anger problems or really can't get out of the peer pressure, or if you are addicted to some substance or other. It can be really tough, and Jesus would like us to be free, to be able to have those things, not let them have you. You can possess all these things as long as they don't possess you. You can have friends, but don't let your friends possess you. Have a drink, don't let your drink possess you. Have some food, don't let your food possess you. Have your emotional life, don't let your emotions have you. Have some opinions about life, but don't let them control you. So, today we're all in the process of trying to become more free, because in that freedom that Jesus had, boy, he was really free. And we said that's the abundant life everybody wants. To have a life where you're not controlled and out of control, not in bondage, not enslaved, not tied up, not controlled by your impulses and your drives, but simply to be a child of God, following Christ. And then life becomes easy, beautiful. So, you might become aware a little bit more of the things that are inside of you. They could become like little demons or big demons. And we ask God, say, God, help us to be free of those demons. Help us to be free of the things that control us, so that we can have the abundant life that we saw in Jesus. Well, we're all on that path. Everyone's got a few demons, but we're all on the way to overcoming them. And with God's help, as we say in the baptismal service, I will, with God's help, we will become free. And God help us, make us the whole free beings who are intended to be. So, know your demons and ask God for help in overcoming them, because freedom is your destiny. That's your birthright. It's who you are meant to be. Free. Really free. I offer this to you in God's name. God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.